Welcome to NBA Draft Grades, where I will be grading every NBA team's performance in this year's NBA Draft. I'll be starting out with the Phoenix Suns. The Suns selected with the first pick, DeAndre Ayton. The 10th pick, they selected Mikal Bridges. They traded the 16th pick, Zhaire Smith, and the 2021 Miami Heat first rounder in order to get Bridges. The 31st pick, Elie Okobo, and the 59th pick, George King. The Suns started the draft with the choice everyone knew they'd make, with DeAndre Ayton. Him and Devin Booker will have a good relationship, and he will thrive in Phoenix. They then traded for Mikal Bridges, which was a bit of a head-scratcher for both teams involved. They traded what would eventually be Zhaire Smith and a 2021 first-round pick from the Heat. Mikal is a player who is ready to contribute to wins right away, and the Suns most likely won't be in the playoffs in the next year or two. Bridges is still a great player and can contribute off of their bench nicely. With the first pick in the second round, they got Elie Okobo, a very nice scoring guard from France. He most likely won't play for the Suns next year and will stay over in Europe. But he can still be a very good bench scorer, and if he does come over, then he could maybe contribute right away. George King will most likely never play in the NBA, sadly, and stay on the Suns' G League team. I gave them a grade of A. The Suns did really well in the draft. They got the guy they wanted and a guy who will contribute immediately. This will begin the turnaround for the franchise. Next is Sacramento Kings. With the number 2 pick, they drafted Marvin Bagley III, and they acquired 2 future second-round picks and cash considerations for the 37th pick. I thought the Kings should have taken Doncic, like I said in my mock draft, but I also said that I wouldn't mind them taking Bagley at all. The Kings seem to like their current core as they basically have every position filled. De'Aaron Fox at point, Buddy Hield and Bogdan Bogdanovic at the wings, Marvin Bagley at power forward, and Willie Cauley-Stein at center. Bagley was the only player they ended up selecting in the draft, but I think they did a very good job with it. Grade A-. The Kings get a high energy and great offensive big man. Now they have to develop him with the rest of their roster into a playoff and championship team. But without major growth within the next year or two, I still don't think this team will be a playoff here for at least the next 2 or 3 years. Next is the Atlanta Hawks. With the 5th pick, they drafted Trae Young, and they traded the 3rd pick to the Mavs and got the Mavs first rounder next year that's protected from picks 1 to 5. With the 19th pick, they selected Kevin Huerter. With the 30th pick, they selected Omari Spellman. They traded the 34th pick for 2 future second-rounders. The Hawks had an obvious plan going into draft night. They started by trading the 3rd pick to the Mavs for the 5th pick, and the Mavs pick next year as long as it is outside the top 5. They got Trae Young with their 5th pick and got the best spot-up shooter in Kevin Huerter and one of the best big men spot-up shooters in Omari Spellman. They are going all in on Trae Young, it seems, which is a very bold move I did not expect. But they are giving Trae a very good group of players that will fit his skill set well. Grade C+. I don't have much faith in Trae Young being a franchise player, and I think this is very risky. But they are doing everything to make the roster as Trae-friendly as possible. If you are going to take a risk, might as well go all in on it. But they do get a potential lottery pick next year from the Mavericks, which could be very nice. This also means that Dennis Schroeder is definitely going to be traded, so that's something to keep an eye out for. The Memphis Grizzlies are next. They selected with the 4th pick Jaren Jackson Jr. and the 32nd pick Jevon Carter. The Grizzlies selected Jaren Jackson Jr. with the 4th pick, and I don't really like the pick. If you watch my mock draft, you know that I am not as high on Jackson as most others are. Also, the Grizzlies have seemed to be in win-now mode even after their 7-year playoff streak coming to an end this year, but Jackson Jr. is a player that will take multiple years to develop into the player that they want him to be, and even with the people who are high in Jackson say that. With aging stars and Mike Conley and Marc Gasol, by the time Jackson hits his prime, they will either be gone or too old to contribute at a high level anymore. I'm not sure what the Grizzlies are doing, and this seems like a potential bust of a pick. In the second round, they did pick up a very underrated player in Jevon Carter. He is arguably the best guard defender in the draft after terrifying college guards for 4 years in the NCAA. Carter fits the grit and grind style that the playoff teams in Memphis had. Grade C-. If Memphis can quickly develop Jackson, then this could be a great pick. But I don't see that happening, so unless the Grizzlies are beginning a long rebuild and are willing to trade their stars now, they may be stuck in no man's land for a while. Next is the Dallas Mavericks. With the third pick, they got Luka Doncic after trading number 5 in next year's first rounder, 1-5 protected, and the 33rd pick, Jalen Brunson, 56th pick, Ray Spalding, and the 60th pick, Kostas Antetokounmpo. Both picks traded from Philly for the 54th pick. The Mavericks took the guy who I think is the best player in the draft in Luka Doncic. They did have to trade up, but I definitely think it is worth it. They also got some good players in the second round. They got Jalen Brunson, the National Player of the Year in college, who can be very nice backup point guard who knows how to win. They also got Ray Spalding and Kostas Antetokounmpo, both guys who will play well in the G League but have some potential. Grade A. The Mavericks got a great player and probably their playmaker of the future, since Dennis Smith Jr. is a point guard who is more of a driver and scorer. I think they will play nice alongside each other. The Mavs probably won't get their first round pick next year, so they could try to sign a good big man in free agency and could be a dark horse for a playoff spot. Next is the Orlando Magic. With the 6th pick, they drafted Mo Bamba, the 35th pick, Melvin Frazier, and the 43rd pick, Justin Jackson. Traded the 41st for this pick and a future second rounder. The Magic took the best player available with Mo Bamba, and I think this will end their awful draft luck over the past decade. This most likely means Vucevic is on the way out, so it will be interesting to see if anything happens. The Magic also got a steal with Melvin Frazier, who could have been a first rounder. He's a very nice 3-and-D wing and should play some quality minutes. Justin Jackson is also a 3-and-D wing who could surprise and steal some minutes in the Magic rotation. Grade A-. The Magic got a great group of players, but the thing that is preventing them from a higher grade are the moves that come next. They can't waste the talent they have, and they need to trade Vucevic and let Bamba be on the court a lot. They also have the worst point guard situation in the league, which desperately needs to be addressed. The possible re-signing of Aaron Gordon is a big decision as well. The Magic have the talent. They now need to make the right moves for this talent to translate into some wins finally. The Chicago Bulls got, with the 7th pick, Wendell Carter Jr. and the 22nd pick, Chandler Hutchinson. In the mock draft, I said if they drafted Bamba and Hutchinson, they would be the winners of the draft. They didn't get Bamba, but they still got a very good center in Wendell Carter Jr. Grade A. The Bulls didn't get a superstar, but they got 2 really good players. I think the Bulls have found their starting lineup. Chris Dunn and Levine at the guards. They can have Hutchinson at small forward, Lauri Markkanen at power forward, and Wendell Carter Jr. at center. I think this very young group of guys all have games that complement each other, and I think the Bulls could make a surprising run at a playoff spot next year. Cleveland Cavaliers with the 8th pick, Collin Sexton. Like I said in my mock draft, this pick will tell us whether or not LeBron is staying. They picked Collin Sexton, who I thought they would, and it's almost certain LeBron will be leaving. Sexton does have great potential though, and can be their new face of the franchise at point guard. Grade A-. Michael Porter Jr. was still on the board, but it seems like his injury concerns are very serious, so Cavs fans shouldn't be mad that they didn't take him. The Cavs are most likely going to tear down this team, and Sexton will most likely be their guy moving forward. Next is the New York Knicks. With the 9th pick, they got Kevin Knox and the 36th pick, Mitchell Robinson. I feel bad for any player that will be drafted by the Knicks, because that one kid is always going to cry about it. But hey, on the bright side, he was way wrong about Porzingis, so that could be good news for Kevin Knox. Knox is one of the youngest players in this draft and will fill in the small forward role for the Knicks moving forward. While he isn't going to be as good as Porzingis, Knox is a very good scorer Knicks fans should be excited about. They took a risky player in the second round, but in the second round, taking risks isn't going to hurt you. Robinson was a top 10 player coming out of high school who committed to Western Kentucky, then uncommitted, then ending up not playing organized basketball at all while everyone else in the draft was. If the Knicks can find a way to get Robinson to reach his potential, they could have the steal of the draft. Grade B. The Knicks had a solid draft, but nothing special. Their players most likely won't be stars, but Knox should be a good scorer for them as they try to get into the playoffs. That was the Philadelphia 76ers. The 16th pick, they got Zaire Smith, traded the number 10 pick, and got him and Heat 2021 pick. The number 26th pick, Landry Shamet. Number 54th pick, Shake Milton. They traded the 56th and 60th for him. Traded 38th pick to Pistons for 2 future seconds. Traded 39th to Lakers for future second and cash considerations. And I was surprised the Sixers ended up being the busiest team on draft night. Things seemed to start great as they got their dream guy Mikal Bridges, who already lived in Philly, and his mom works for the Sixers. And then out of nowhere they traded him to the Suns for Zaire Smith and a first round pick 3 years from now. Then with the 26th pick, Robert Williams was still on the board, a guy who could be the perfect backup center and was supposed to be drafted in the lottery. Then they drafted Landry Shamet, not a bad player, but someone they could have easily drafted in the second round. They would trade 4 of their second round picks for 1 in return and a bunch of future ones in cash. The guy they got, Shake Milton, could be a steal, a great defensive guard who could have went in the first round. Brett Brown would say after the draft that their entire plan is to star chase, basically saying that they are stacking assets for a superstar to come here. Grade D+. This could end up being an amazing draft if the Sixers end up getting one of LeBron, Kawhi, or Paul George. But if they don't get one of those guys, this draft will be a massive failure for them. Philly fans just gotta trust the process. Next is the Charlotte Hornets. The 12th pick, they got Miles Bridges. They traded the 11th and got him and 2 future seconds. The 34th pick, Devontae Graham, traded 2 future seconds for him. And the number 55th pick, Arnaldus Koboka. And not a part of the draft, they traded Dwight Howard for Timothy Mozgov and 2 future seconds. The Hornets got Miles Bridges in a couple of seconds with the 12th pick. I'm not sure how Bridges will fit with them. They already have 2 small forwards in Nick Batum and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, with Batum playing shooting guard for them. I don't picture any of those 3 playing power forward, so I guess Bridges will be a bench guy. They traded for Devontae Graham, a very good scorer, similar to the guy they drafted last year, Malik Monk. They also got a draft and stash player. With Dwight Howard gone, it's unknown if they are going to trade Kemba or keep him. Grade C. The Hornets got some good players, but there isn't really a need for any of them. They made a questionable move to get rid of Howard for a guy arguably on a worse deal than Howard's. I'm expecting more moves by the Hornets this offseason, but for now I have no idea what they're doing, and I'm not sure if the Hornets know either. Los Angeles Clippers had the 11th pick, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They traded the 12th pick and 2 future seconds, and the 13th pick, Jerome Robinson. Not a part of the draft, they traded Austin Rivers for Marcin Gortat. The Clippers gave up a little to get the guy they wanted in Gilgeous-Alexander, who will most likely be their guard of the future. They then drafted Jerome Robinson, which really surprised me. I really like Robinson. He's a really great scorer that I saw a lot in college, but I think this is too early of a pick to select him at. Grade C-. I like Gilgeous-Alexander and Robinson, but if they wanted Robinson, they could have traded down for him. And they also had to trade up in order to get Gilgeous-Alexander. The Clippers did trade Austin Rivers to clear room for them in the rotation, which is a smart thing for them to do. The Denver Nuggets are next. With the 14th pick, they got Michael Porter Jr. The 41st pick, Jared Vanderbilt. Traded the 43rd and future second, and number 58th pick, Thomas Welch. I like that the Nuggets finally drafted Porter Jr. I know his injury concern is very off-putting, but if he can get healthy in a year or two, he could very well be the best player in this draft. As for the other selections, I know there are only 2 second-rounders, but the Nuggets are already overloaded with big men, and it makes no sense to me that they would draft 2 more of them. Grade B. I really like them risking for Porter, but if Porter ends up not being able to play his career because of injury, the Nuggets will walk away from this draft with absolutely nothing. Next is the Washington Wizards. With the 15th pick, they got Troy Brown Jr., and the 44th pick, Issouf Sanon. They traded Marcin Gortat for Austin Rivers, too. Washington got a very good 3-and-D player to come off their bench, but I am very surprised they did not take Robert Williams, especially since they traded Gortat a couple days after the draft. But they did get a guy to help their bench, which has been a very big weakness for for the past 2 or 3 years. But drafting an overseas guy that won't play immediately doesn't make sense for them, even in the second round. There were still players available that could make an immediate impact for them. Grade C+. They got a good player to come off their bench, but it really won't change how successful they are going to be the next year. Austin Rivers also takes time away from Brown Jr., and it makes their big man situation even worse. Next is the Milwaukee Bucks. With the 17th pick, they got Donte DiVincenzo. The Bucks also needed bench depth desperately, and they got the best sixth man in all of college last year. I really like this pick. DiVincenzo will provide offense, shooting, energy, and defense for the Bucks off the bench, and he has good potential. Grade A-. A guy like DiVincenzo was needed for the Bucks in the playoffs this year, and he can help them progress into the future. Next is San Antonio Spurs. With the 18th pick, they got Lonnie Walker IV, and the 49th pick, they got Chimezie Metu. Lonnie Walker fell out of the lottery and the Spurs pounced on him. Walker was good enough to be considered as a top 10 pick, so this could be a steal right here. The Spurs are weak at the guard positions right now, so getting a high potential guard is great for them. Metu has a good couple of tools and could eventually turn into a solid bench player for them. Grade A. The Spurs got a very talented guy at the position they need, and they even got him outside of the lottery. The Spurs had a great draft considering where they were picking from. Next is the Minnesota Timberwolves. With the 20th pick, they got Josh Okogie, and the 48th pick, they got Keita Bates-Diop. I love what the Timberwolves did. They got a very athletic, great defender, and a good three-point shooter in Okogie. And then Bates-Diop, the guy I had them at 20 in my mock draft, somehow fell to them in the second round at the 48th pick. Grade A. The only thing keeping this from an A+ is that I don't think either of their players will become stars, but I think they got two very good role players that definitely boost their bench. The Utah Jazz got Grayson Allen with the 21st pick, and they traded the 52nd pick for cash considerations. The Jazz got a great backup for Donovan Mitchell and Grayson Allen. He's a typical 3-and-D player. Allen and Mitchell already seem to have some chemistry with each other. Grade A-. I do think the Jazz could have moved down in the draft to get Allen, but other than that, they got exactly what they were looking for. Next is the Indiana Pacers. With the 23rd pick, they got Aaron Holiday, and the 50th pick, they got Alize Johnson. The Pacers took Aaron Holiday in hopes of him eventually becoming their point guard of the future. The Pacers do already have two veteran point guards, so don't expect Holiday to get much playing time in his rookie year behind Corey Joseph and Darren Collison. Johnson is a pure rebounder who will probably play mostly in the G League. Grade B. The Pacers didn't get guys to help them right away, but they did draft for their future, so it looks like the Pacers aren't trying to rush into a championship or bust mode just yet. Next are the Portland Trail Blazers. They got Anthony Simons with the 24th pick, and with the 37th pick they got Gary Trent Jr. after they traded two future second round picks and cash considerations. The Blazers took a risk in Simons, a guy fresh out of high school, someone that will probably been available later in the draft because of his lack of college experience. They then made a move to draft Gary Trent Jr., a good shooter who could be a steal. Grade C-. The Blazers already have two stars at both guard positions, so I'm not sure why they decided to draft two more guards to the team, especially when they lack offense from their forward positions. The players themselves aren't bad, but they just don't really need them. Los Angeles Lakers got Mo Wagner with the 25th pick. With 39th pick got Isaac Bonga after they traded future second and cash considerations. And the 47th pick they got... I'm not even going to try. The Lakers drafted one of the stars of the tournament in Wagner, and the Lakers definitely need some help at the big position, so I think it was a good pick. I would have preferred Robert Williams, but we will get to that soon. Bonga is a pick banking on his potential. He is super athletic and can handle the ball, but he isn't quite NBA ready yet. Zwei was a great scorer in college and could possibly sneak his way onto the NBA roster. Grade B-. The Lakers didn't do anything special, but they made some decent picks that could possibly come off the bench as role players in the future. Boston Celtics with the 27th pick, Robert Williams III. I cannot believe he fell this far. I had him as the 12th pick in my mock. I think this is an absolute steal. There were reports that he might have an attitude problem, but this guy was a stud in college, and I have a lot of faith in him. Grade A+. They got a guy who can eventually replace Al Horford. He plays a lot like Clint Capella, a rim protector that can rebound. I think the Celtics got the steal of the draft. Golden State Warriors with the 28th pick got Jacob Evans III. The Warriors got a tough guy who plays defense and hustles. He can fill that backup wing spot for them. He's a pretty good three-point shooter too. Grade B. I think the Warriors have a bigger need at the center position since they couldn't find stability all season until JaVale McGee took over the finals, but I wouldn't count on that again. But Evans is a guy who can contribute right away for the Warriors. Next is the Brooklyn Nets. With the 29th pick, they got Yazan Musa. With the 40th pick, they got Rodions Kirkos. And with the 45th pick, they got Hamidou Diallo. Not a part of the draft, they traded Timothy Mozgov and 2 future seconds for Dwight Howard, and they bought him out. Musa was the guy I had the Nets taking in my mock draft. He's a high upside player who's a great scorer. They drafted another international guy in the small forward Kirkos. He's a former teammate of Kristaps Porzingis. The Nets also drafted Hamidou Diallo. Diallo is the best athlete in this draft, but he doesn't have a lot of skills currently. Grade B+. The Nets picked high potential guys that they can develop over time. They will finally get their picks back next year and they can look to get more young assets. They also got rid of Mozgov's contract, and although I would have liked to see Howard play for them, the buyout gives their young guys the ability to play more. Detroit Pistons, with the 38th pick, they got Kyrie Thomas after they traded 2 future seconds, and the 42nd pick, they got Bruce Brown Jr. The Pistons got 2 guys in the second round that could have been first rounders. I thought Thomas should have been taken in the first round, and I think he can be a good player for them. Brown was also considered a first rounder. Grade A-. The Pistons needed wing and guard depth, and they got some pretty good players that fell in the draft. I think they had a quiet but solid draft. Next are the Houston Rockets. The 46th pick, they got DeAnthony Melton. With the 52nd pick, they got Vincent Edwards, traded their cash considerations for him. The Rockets also drafted a guy that could have been a first rounder in Melton. Melton is a very good defender that gives them much needed bench depth. Edwards is an undersized forward, but he has very good three-point shot, something we know the Rockets love. Grade A. The Rockets got 2 guys very late in the draft that can contribute down the line and could even have an impact this year. New Orleans Pelicans, number 51, Tony Carr. Carr is a scoring guard that can create his own shot. Grade C+. Carr probably won't play in the league this year, but could possibly get in their rotation in later years. Oklahoma City Thunder at the 53rd pick got Devon Hall, and the 57th pick got Kevin Hervey. The Thunder draft 2 guys that can shoot, but will have to fight hard for a roster spot. Grade C+. Unfortunately for these guys, they most likely won't get much if any time in the league this year. And the Toronto Raptors and Miami Heat both had no picks.